Electrocast.
There's a change happening in the way we live, the way we work, the way we spend our money and make our decisions. We are evolving to be more conscious in our actions in a way that serves the world and makes it a better place. Welcome to the Ethical Evolution. The Ethical Evolution podcast is brought to you by the Ethical Change Agency. I'm Bindi, CEO and founder, and I am honoured to bring you the stories of those who create change through paying it forward and giving back. Ethical business owners and holistic healers who are determined to create collective change in the world. Once we have a change in consciousness, and through collective change, we can become one. Will Rodriguez has a background in science and spent a good slice of his life in the television industry. His evolution led him to podcasting, where he worked his way through a breakdown to create the Skeptic Metaphysician, connecting with leaders in different modalities of woowoo and healing to truly find what works. As a scientist, Will didn't believe in blind faith and had to find the proof for himself. Through this conversation, we share our journeys, which are incredibly similar, and how podcasting has changed our lives. Welcome, Will, to the Ethical Evolution.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
Now, thank you for joining us. Now you're coming to us all the way from Virginia, USA. Now, can you tell us about who you are and what you do?
Sure, that's a loaded question. I am by trade a video and television producer. I've been in the video and television world pretty much my entire career, but recently have made the transition to digital audio in the form of podcasts, and that is because of not just the vast popularity of it, but really to give you an idea of how I got into it, I'd have to tell you a little bit about what happened to me over the last couple of years.
Yeah.
And it's a loaded topic, so bear with me. Like most people, over the last year and a half to 2 years, COVID became a real problem. Prior to that, because I am in the television space, television is an incredibly stressful vocation. So over the last 2 years or so, 2.5 years, stress was starting to get to me to the point where I had an existential crisis. I had a little bit of a nervous breakdown, I guess is probably the best way to put it.
Yeah.
Where I had to take a leave of absence from work. I had to really refocus on myself and what my soul needed. And I found that through the working of that, I realized that I was a terrible person. I was a really awful person, and the realization hit me hard. I thought that I was a genuine human being who treated everyone with respect, and to learn that I was fooling myself really my entire life was so hard for me that it literally drove me into this existential crisis that I had. And during the time that I was trying to pick myself up off the ground, I was looking for content that could help me on a daily basis. I tuned into things like Headspace and Calm and things like that, and found that Headspace had a short 5-minute little podcast that they publish every day that kind of was like a pick-me-up. But I was looking for more in-depth content. I was looking for mental health topics that would allow me to wrap my head around what I was going through. And I couldn't really find that. I found a lot of shows that were in-depth, hour-plus long shows that I just didn't have time for. So when I picked myself up off the ground, I realized that, and I came back to work, I wanted to create something that I was looking for that I couldn't find. So I created Calm, Cool, and Connected, which was my first podcast, which was meant for the mental health space. And that show was very intentionally We keep them around 10 to 15 minutes tops. And they're all very specific to one topic, so that if you are interested in a topic, you tune in. If you're not, you don't have to. You just wait for the next one. The next one might be of interest. And I found that most commutes are around the 20-minute mark. When you're commuting to work, it takes sometimes 20 minutes on the average. The average commute, at least here in the US, is 20 minutes one way. So I wanted to create something that was consumable within one commute, so that it was easy to digest. So that's why Calm, Cool, and Connected was created. But then I found that just the mental health space was not enough. I found that my crisis went much further than mental health. It went into truly who we are, what we're doing here, what is the purpose of life? Is there anything beyond this space? So then I launched my own podcast, which is called The Skeptic Metaphysician, that dives into all matter of these types of questions. I'm by trade a scientist in mind, so I'm not good with blind faith. I need to feel it, to touch it, to know that it truly exists. So that's the reason why the show is called The Skeptic Metaphysician, because I'm very skeptic of these things, so I need proof. Well, over the course of the last 28 episodes, or however long it's been now, I interviewed experts in their individual fields, people who astral project, people who are experts in life after death, people who are past life regression therapists, who are experts in reincarnation and Reiki energy healing and tarot and all these different modalities. Each episode dives into one of those modalities to find whether or not this stuff was real, right? Well, I can tell you that I've learned an awful lot over the last 28 weeks in this space, and have found, fascinatingly enough, that though everyone is using a different language, we're all saying the exact same thing.
Yep.
I mean, it blew my mind, because there's so much out there that it doesn't matter what path you choose, as long as you choose a path, we're all going to the same place. And that was unbelievably soothing to my soul, because there's so much out there. But what if I don't believe in astrology? So what does that mean? Does that mean it's not real? It just means it's not the path for me. Right? So it became a labor of love for me, because everyone tunes in to learn about a different modality and may find that, nope, this one's not for me. This one's not for me. Oh my gosh, lucid dreaming, that I want to learn more about that. So it's a great jumping off point for people who are interested in this world, but aren't quite ready to hang up all their other belief systems based on one, or who are intimidated by the whole woo thing of it, right?
Yeah.
It's really an entry level to this type of conversation, without feeling like you're going to be preached to, or you're going to feel like the conversation is over your head, because I'm a newbie to the space as well. So I'm asking the questions for you that you would want to ask, basically.
Yeah, and
that was a long answer. Sorry about that.
No, it was perfect, because it just shows how much you and I have in common on so many levels. Particularly our journey and the same kind of conversations that we have. Probably about 3, nearly 4 years ago now, I started my own podcast called The State of You, and it went into basically self-growth, self-discovery. It became my therapy, basically. And from there, I just exploded. And now I've been on, I think, 12 different podcasts, created 12 different podcasts. But we're now up to 78 episodes on this podcast. And again, I talk to those same kind of people that you do. I've actually done the past life regression and future life progression stuff with someone. We talk about Reiki, we talk about shamanism, we talk about spirituality, you name it. we're doing all of that, and we're asking all those questions that nobody else asks because we're curious and we want to learn and we want to grow. So doing exactly the same stuff that you are. How incredible.
Love it. I love it so much. I think that there is, it's so important right now because the world is definitely going through a transition. More and more people are interested in this stuff, are curious about this stuff. We are learning more about quantum physics and quantum mechanics and what that means for things like the law of attraction and all that kind of stuff. So the more people out there asking those questions and diving into these topics, the better, I think, because the message overall, we have to change. We've got to wake up. We've got to remember who we are because this world is in dire straits right now.
Exactly. And that's exactly the whole mission behind this podcast. It's all about the ethical evolution. It's about waking up and making different choices for a better tomorrow. So exactly, we're all getting the same message from all of these people. Like, how much more does it take?
Well, yeah. Sadly, there's a lot more waking up to be done, unfortunately.
Absolutely. So, with the podcast now, where are you headed with it and what's your mission?
Great question. I started the podcast as a way for me to get my affirmations out into the universe. Right? It wasn't really ever meant to be a tool for anyone else to use. It was really a tool for myself. Over the course of the last 28 episodes, I've found that I've been driving like-minded folks to find the show. And I was looking right before the recording, I was looking at my podcast reviews and ratings, and there were a lot more than I remember or thought there would be. So it's definitely resonating with a few people. So once I learned that, this is probably maybe 3 months ago or so, I learned that suddenly this project took a life of its own. It wasn't just for me anymore. It was for a lot of people out there who were thinking the same thing and asking the same questions. So I would hope that these questions, these topics, this conversation not only resonates with other people, but that they'll be moved to share it with other folks so that they and us can have those conversations and expand them and invite more people into the conversation. Because like we just talked about, we need more and more people to wake up. And my hope is to transcend the podcast and move this more into a place where people can learn. I hate to use the word retreats, but maybe that's the future. I've been approached to be part of retreats in the past where they charge people to be part of the retreat and things like that. That's not what I'm hoping for. I'm hoping for it. My show is not monetized at all. I'm not interested in monetizing it at all because with monetization comes commercialism, which then becomes
you lose your whole ethos of it, right? Yeah,
exactly. Talk about the ethical change. I want to keep that ethics above board. I'm not influenced by anybody. There's no brand telling me what I can or can't say or do on the show. Similarly, I would love to have a space where like-minded individuals come together to explore things. One of the topics I explored on the show was Kundalini activation. I would love, whether it's Kundalini or Reiki or intuitive healing or tarot readings, I want to be able to bring a bunch of people together and share their expertise with each other without having to charge each other, right? There is a way that people that do this can monetize it, right? We all have to make a living. I totally understand that. But at the end of the day, we need to help each other to ascend. And the best way to do that is if you have a special talent and I have a special talent, let's exchange those talents to help each other grow in a space that is safe and rewarding for everybody. And then perhaps bring people in who are outside of that to help sponsor it or to help monetize it in a way to cut expenses or to cover costs. But the content should not be something that I charge for. The content should be something that is given freely because I want you, Bindi, to grow. and you want me to grow, and we can help each other. That's my hope, is to grow this community into something that becomes a movement. It sounds so cliche. It really does. As I'm saying it, I'm cringing because I haven't said it out loud before. But I would love to see it. I really, call me a child of the 70s or whatever, the 60s. I would love to go back to that thought process. You know?
Oh, Will, look, the universe brought you and I together for a reason, and everything you're saying I've previously said before.
Wow.
It's like, oh my God, where the hell have you been? So, I think there's potential for us to potentially bring this together. I've got a network globally of so many people in your wheelhouse, as would you. So I think there's an opportunity here for us to actually take this even further. So
I welcome it 100%. I'm looking for people, and in the course of my interviews, I have found a few people that are very similar in mindset to you and I, where we want to collaborate. We want to help the world grow. So yeah, I'm count me in. I'm on board. I'm definitely a collaborator.
You heard it, folks. It's happening. It's happening right here. So I'm curious to know, Will, like through all of the conversations that you've had, I mean, I find I learn so much, and I develop really connected relationships with people that I've never met before. Like, we're talking an energy exchange you've never experienced. Like, it's been life-changing for me, absolutely life-changing. But I want to know from you, like, what's been the biggest moment for you through all of these conversations that you've had? Like, what's been the most moving and memorable for you?
I think I mentioned it earlier, the realization that we're all saying the same thing, just in a different way. I've also learned that there are more people out there that are talking our language, but maybe aren't as vocal about it because there's a stigma. Right? There was a woman that reached out to me because she had been a loyal listener to the show, and she says, I have a story to tell, but I'm afraid to tell it because I'm afraid what people will think about me. So I brought her on the show, and we just used a first name. We didn't say who she was or anything like that. And she told her story, and it was specifically about her experiences with an incredible vibration that led her into leaving her body, a journey outside of her body. And she was 100% convinced that it was real. It's not a dream. It is actual. I saw myself. I moved through the wall, sat down next to my dog. But she had never had the courage to talk about her experience before because she was afraid of being judged. Since the time that she was on the show, she has had people reach out to her who recognize her, who said, I have a similar story. I had no idea that you were going through the same thing. I'd love to connect with you and exchange notes. And so that has given her the courage to go out and now suddenly start speaking about her experiences and showing people that you don't have to be afraid. Yeah, there are people out there who are going to call you a whack. There are. There's those,
and they're not your people.
They're not. Oh my God, that is the exact language we use on the podcast. That we've been looking for our people, and we haven't been able to find our people.
Yeah.
Right? Mindy, you and I, we are our people.
Yeah.
Bess is our people. These are the types of stories that are connecting the people out there who are searching for their people, who can't find it. And it's okay to know that there are people out there who are not yours.
That's exactly right. And I think that's the beautiful thing, that the power that you and I have of holding that space for people is that we're bringing these conversations out of the dark and into the light. And you can just see how that amplifies once somebody hears that. And then they're like, oh, hang on, that same thing's happening to me. It's okay to talk about this stuff. So, just opening that door for people to open up, I think is such a powerful thing.
No question. And the feeling that I got when I heard from her saying, thank you for helping me realize that my story was one I had to share, it made it all worthwhile. Right? Podcasting is a very lonely experience.
Yeah.
You don't get a lot of feedback. So when you get a message like this, and this woman and I have become very good friends afterwards. We knew each other before, but we've become good friends now. And to know that I have helped her by way of this show makes all the difference to me. It's suddenly now, it's not just helping me, I'm helping other people. And if I just help that one, it's all worth it. It truly is all worth it.
Yeah, and, that just brings us back to the power of podcasts, and it's something that I talk about a lot because I don't think people truly understand the power that we can, bring to people through them. To give you an example of what we've done so far through the Ethical Evolution, behind the scenes, we actually have a network with all the guests, and we connect around the world, and we share information, we connect, and we join on different missions so that we can actually amplify that work instead of doing it alone, right? So to give you an example, we had 2 different guests who were working in the rainforest of Borneo. They now work together to help save orangutans in Borneo. We've got women in the UK who are working around sustainable fashion. They're now doing webinars together. So we're bringing people who are doing the same thing together. We're making those connections. We're making the world a little bit smaller, and we're actually making that change that we talk about.
That's fantastic. I salute you. I tip my hat off to you. These are exactly the types of relationships that the world needs right now. Thank you.
Thank you. So, you were just saying that podcasting is, a lonely art. And I feel you there. I really do. After doing it for so many years and helping others through that same journey. What would you say is your biggest challenge, though, in this space, and how do you overcome it?
The biggest challenge. Wow. How much time do we have? I think probably the hardest thing has been that lack of feedback. As a video producer, as a television producer, we get instant gratification, right? We know how many people are watching. Now, granted, we know how many people are listening or downloading the show, but because I worked for a major network in the States, we knew right away if we were touching our audience, if we were not touching our audience. So for the first several months doing the show, I didn't even realize, I was so new to podcasting, I didn't even realize that there was a place that people left reviews for you. So for several months, I was speaking out to the ether for myself, like I mentioned, just putting it out there as a way of getting my affirmations out there for myself. But then it became like I'm speaking out to the void. Is anyone even really listening to this? And at the end of the day, does it really matter? Well, I learned that it kind of did. It felt very lonely speaking out into the darkness and not knowing whether anyone was listening or not. Besides, friends and family, because
and then you're lucky.
If they don't, they're in trouble. Anyway. So my biggest challenge, I think, was realizing that the show is meant to be a journey of discovery to help others. And most of these people are not going to reach out to you because they're afraid of what people will think. So not realizing that at the onset made it challenging. There was a point where I almost shuttered the show. I do everything myself on the podcast.
Yeah.
I host it, I produce it, I edit it, I market it. I do everything myself. So it's a huge time suck. And I do have a family, and it was taking a lot of time away from my family. And I was having conversations with my wife, and she was just not happy with the time it was taking away. She understood the reason for it at first, but now I'm in a much better place. I'm hoping that I'm a lot less ego-driven in my life, in my relationships. I hope that I'm a lot less judgmental. I hope that I'm more authentic with my relationships, in my dealing with everybody. So she thought it was time to put it away, to put your toys away now. And it very ironic because the universe works in very strange ways. It just so happens that she was sitting next to me while I found this site that curates all your reviews. It's called My Podcast Reviews. And when I went to that site and saw that I had over 100 ratings and over 30 reviews, we started reading them together, shocked, like completely in awe of some of these reviews that were just unbelievably inspiring. The fact that we are touching people had never occurred to me, that there were this many people that were being touched by the messages that we were sharing. My wife turned to me and she says, "You can't stop the show. You are reaching a lot of people that apparently need this type of thing. You can't stop the show." So I don't know what to tell you. And that was a light switch. That was the motivation I needed to say, okay, however long I'm supposed to be doing this for, I'm going to do it until I get another sign that says, okay, it's time to move on.
It's one of those things that, and I feel the same. I've been in the same space as you, where you keep doing it because the passion's there. And when that's gone, it's time to stop. Yeah, because it just, like, I know there's times where I've tried to push things when I know they're not going to work, and then it's never worked, so you have to listen to that intuition and know that when it's right and when it's not.
Absolutely. I think when you listen to a show, when someone's being authentic and when they're just kind of putting on an act. And the minute that I can no longer be authentic with what I'm sharing, that's the minute to hang up. Right now, I am there's one. I've actually recorded 4 of them. They're called self-growth journeys. I've released one, very raw, very holy smokes. I just found this out about myself and I hate it, and I needed to share this with you because maybe someone out there is finding the same things out. I've released one. I'm afraid to release the other 3 because they are so raw and so open up my chest and look inside type of content. I do plan on releasing them at some point when I feel a little bit braver. But those are the types of things that when I released my self-growth journey, there actually is one review that talks specifically about saying thank you for your bravery for putting it out there. And when I was doing it, I was just doing it out there to get it out there. It's like a diary for myself. And then suddenly realized, oh my gosh, people are listening to this. And it was unbelievably rewarding that in spite of my being raw and saying I have been a terrible person up until this point, and I'm committing myself to making a change. In spite of that, in spite of my vulnerability, my showing my true colors in Mindy, it was ugly. It was ugly. I was an ugly human being. In spite of that, people are along for the ride and want to see the changes and the exploration. I mean, I'm getting chills just now thinking about it.
And Will, from my experience, I've spoken to very high profile, like Hollywood producers and people like that who also do podcasts, and also from my own experience that those episodes that you record where you really are opening yourself and it's really raw and you're afraid to let that out there, the one piece of advice I could give is just do it, because the world's not going to end, and you know what? More people are going to connect with that than anything, because that's what the world needs right now. We need human connection. And, don't hold back on that, because that's what we're all yearning for.
Yeah. You've inspired me. I'm going to go ahead and release those.
Yeah, don't hold back. Like, there's no time like the present. And, I've had a guest on the show who also has her own podcast, and she went through addiction recovery and opened up all her closet, So that was a big thing for her to someone who's so publicly visible to actually have that kind of conversation and let those secrets out. She was scared to do that. And you know what? As soon as you do it, there's this big relief, this release. and you're like, you know what, the world didn't end. No one came after me with pitchforks. It's all good. But, you know, there's this cathartic self-healing in you doing that, but you're also helping others in doing it.
It's 100%. And in fact, it's funny that you mentioned the catharsis, because the genesis of those particular episodes, and they're very different than any of the other ones I've done because I've recorded them differently. Every morning I wake up, I have my coffee, and I do a meditation. And then I pick up one of my favorite books. I have two that I go between. One is Dr. Wayne Dyer's 10 Secrets to Success, 10 Secrets to Success and Happiness, something along those lines. Forgot. I'm embarrassed. And then the other one is Conversations with God.
Yeah.
And I need to first give a disclaimer. I'm not at all religious. I am not at all religious. I am a scientist. I said earlier that I cannot go on blind faith, and religion to me is complete blind faith, and that's just not for me. But Conversations with God is often misinterpreted. In fact, when I first heard the book, I was like, I'm not reading that. That's about religion. That's not me. Not at all. It is not at all about religion. It is, and I'm not sure how much you know about the book, but it is written by a writer, Neil Donald Walsh, who sat down frustrated with his life and just started asking God questions. And God suddenly started answering back. And he just automatic writing, just wrote down and created this series of 3 books. I'm on the second book now, but the first book, I read it about 20 some odd years ago and thought, what a piece of garbage. I didn't even finish it. And then during my crisis this past 2 years, I picked it up again and said, let me try this again. And all of a sudden, what does it say in the Bible? That the scales fell from my eyes. It was a life-changing experience. So now, every morning after I meditate, I'll pick up the book and read a chapter or two in it, or a verse or two in it. And this particular day, I read something that struck me so hard that I could not pick up my phone and record a voice memo, putting all this stuff out there. And immediately following, I picked up the book again, read another one, and again, it was like I did not have a choice. I had to put this down on tape. And after I finished, it was this feeling of elation that I had just unspooled all of this darkness inside of me and let it loose and let it go. It was unbelievable. And then the next step, when I released it out into the wild, so to speak, to your point, I was petrified, scared to death, because I know my family listens to this. I know my friends listen to this. I know my coworkers listen to this. They're going to be seeing me in a light that I never wanted anyone to see me, including myself. I was hiding myself from myself really well, but it was time to shine the light in those corners because I hated what I found out about myself. And the respect that I got from my friends and my coworkers, because they knew before me that I was this awful person, and yet they still accepted me as who I was. Now suddenly this respect that I found from them, newfound, because I had identified it myself and committed to change, and now they're seeing the change. When I came back to work, the differences between how I was and who I am now, they were the first to say, hey, congratulations, you are a different person, and we salute you for it. So yeah, to your point, if you haven't done that, I can't urge you enough to do it, whether it's write it down, speak it out in a podcast, talk to your friends or family, just get it out, because it is life-changing. It's life-changing. It really is.
Yeah. And again, just everything you said there, I can relate to you too. Like I've completely changed in the last 2 years as well, through, releasing all that stuff and getting out of the dark and all those kind of things. But, I do episodes now that I never would have done 3 years ago. Like I talk about things I never would have talked about, and quite easily. And then I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to put this out there, and I know that there's people I work with, my family, other people who listen to this stuff. You know, if they don't like it, they're not my people, and that's fine. But I need to get this message out, and it's going to happen. And, I quite often say on this show that I've developed, it's almost like medium talents in the last couple of years, where I actually get messages of what I need to share. And those episodes are probably the most profound ones. Like most recently, I did a panel with 3 other women across 4 different time zones where we talked about shame. And they all shared their own very vulnerable, very raw experiences of how they'd been abused, shame spirals, gaslighting, the whole 9 yards. And it was like people listen to it now and they're in tears. Like it is that vulnerable. And that came from just a message that I got. Wow. You know, I get these visions of what I need to share.
Yeah, it's interesting to mention that because I make a point of listening to my own show when it's released every time because I've learned that I'm going to hear things that I had no idea came out of the interview. A lot of times when I'm having these interviews, I lose myself without realizing I'm losing myself. The conversation is to your point. I don't know whether, and I interviewed Laura Saltman, who is the Hollywood psychic or whatever. I forgot how she bills herself, but psychic to the star. I'm sorry, I don't remember, but she's very well known in LA as a psychic and a medium and a channel. And she told me afterwards, "Hey, you don't realize this, but you're a medium as well. You're a channel. I'm a scientist.
Yeah,
right. But now I find that the way that I channel is maybe doing these shows where I'm just having a conversation. I lose myself and I don't hear, like I've listened back to some of the shows and gone, wow, what the heck? I don't remember half of the stuff that I talked about that we discussed. I truly don't remember half of it. So the show now has become, you mentioned therapy for yourself. My show's therapy for me too, because I'm learning things as I listen to my own show. And it's great. It really is. It's great.
It's like your higher powers communicating to you through the show.
Exactly. No, exactly. Yeah.
Now, Will, I love to ask this question of everyone that's on the show, and it'd be cool to see what your thoughts are. Can you define what being ethical means to you?
Wow. That is the question of the day. What is ethical? I think being ethical is behaving in a way that if brought to light, you will feel comfortable with. Ethics is talking about conversations with God. I'm reading the second volume, and I just literally this morning read something that when God was saying that the only way to make this world better is to live without hiding anything. And it talks about the importance of always speaking truth. Always. The problem with this world, according to this universe, entity, divine, whatever you want to call it, is that people are okay hiding things like money. There's so many different ways of hiding. Imagine if this world, everyone knew what everyone made, everyone knew what the cost of making a certain thing was and what you're selling it for. If in a workplace, everyone's salaries were open and everyone knew exactly, it'd be a totally different world. There'd be no disparaging salary differences. There would be, people would be able to choose who they would support based on what the cost of the good or service is versus what they're charging. I mean, all these kinds of stuff. And I'm sorry I'm going on this tangent, but to me, ethics is just that, is being an authentic person that you're comfortable with. So I am committed. I am trying very hard to live my life in that way, where I'm not going to hide anything from you because it does nothing but do a disservice. So I will tell you exactly how I feel in a kind way, as kind of a way as I can, but it does you no good for me to tell you something that's not really how I feel.
And that's it. The more we hide things, the more difficult life gets, I think. You know, it's going to bubble up eventually. So, you know, the more authentic and true you can be, the less stress you have in your life, really.
Oh, absolutely. And I know that specifically from personal experience. that whole thing about, oh, what a web we weave, that is so true.
Oh, yeah.
Part of my nervous breakdown happened because I was keeping so many things from so many people. I was not being authentic in any way. And when I chose to stop that and I came clean with everybody about everything I've been doing, the stress suddenly was lifted. It was gone. I can't even express to you. So a lot of people were hurt, very deeply hurt, because suddenly they realized some terrible things I had done or said that impacted them directly. But then we had a foundation from which to build an authentic relationship, and that made all the difference. Made all the difference. Now my relationships, whether they're romantic or friendships or familiar, they're so much stronger. They're so much stronger. There's that cliche when an affair happens in a marriage, right? There's a cliche about if you can get through it, you'll be stronger because you've gone through and your relationship is now built on a foundation of truth and trust, and that goes so much further than just a marriage, right? In friendships, you now can build from truth. The foundation is so much stronger. It is hard. It is awful. God, it's awful. They talk about shadow work. It is terrible and painful, but so worth it and so amazingly rewarding that I urge anyone to, it's going to take a lot of bravery, a lot of courage, but man, the rewards are so worth it. I can't even explain. I'm sure living an ethical life, living an authentic life, there's nothing like it. There is nothing like it.
Yeah.
Not for the weak of heart.
No, sure. And it's not easy to do, like particularly if you're looking at it in all areas of your life. But it's again coming back to just getting started and just making that change, making the different decisions. And, I think over time, the older you get, you have a very fine-tuned bullshit meter. And I think that you know when someone's not been straight with you, right? So I think over time, it does get easier. But it's, again, one of those things you have to practice. So, yeah.
Absolutely. Although I do think that some people get so good at that bullshit. Right? They get so good at bullshitting people that sometimes you go, is it just me that, maybe I'm just looking into this, seeing things that they're not there. Trust it. Trust your intuition.
Absolutely.
It's always right.
Absolutely.
Really,
yeah. Now, Will, I've got 2 last questions for you. The first is, if people want to find out about your show and you and what you do, where can they go?
The best, easiest way is to go to skepticmetaphysician.com. There you can find all my social media platforms. You can subscribe to the show. You can actually listen to the show directly on the website. You can send me a message directly there. You can leave a review for the show. It's all in one spot. It's all in one place. Skepticmetaphysician.com is the easiest, fastest way to do it.
Awesome. Now, here's the big one.
Oh, boy.
What's the change you'd like to see in the world, and how can we bring it to life?
I think we're doing it right now. I would love to see, remember in the musical, it became really back in the 60s, Hair, the dawning of the age of Aquarius, where apparently we're there. We are now officially in the age of Aquarius. So now it's time for the world to catch up. It's time for the world to leave the toxicity that we've been living through for the past 10, 15 years and move towards a world that is happier, that is kinder, that is willing to work together. I can only speak sadly about the U.S. because this is where I live. In the U.S., we are stuck in the cycle of competition.
Yep.
The competitiveness that we have between ourselves right now, where we think there's not enough to go around, so we need to get as much of the pie as we possibly can, it's a fallacy. It's not real. It's an illusion. There is so much out there. And the more kindness and sharing that we are of ourselves, the more there's going to be to share. Right? Deepak Chopra wrote a book called The 7 Spiritual Laws of Success. In it, it talks about the law of attraction, but it also talks about the law of least resistance. It also talks about the fact that if the more you give out to the universe, the more the universe gives back to you. So when suddenly, if you're thinking about paying a bill, right, and you're dreading it, you're saying, "Oh God, I don't want to pay this bill. I don't have enough money. Then the universe is going to say, "Okay, you want to live in a world where you're constantly lacking? Okay, your word is God. That's what we're going to do." But if you are constantly knowing that we are all full of abundance, then that's what the universe is going to give to you. It's going to give you abundance. The world is trapped in a mentality of scarcity. I would love to see the world shift to a world, to a thought process of abundance, because there is plenty. There's so much. The more we share with each other, the more we'll get back. We're not in competition with each other. We are one. We are one, and we're trying to all get to the same place. The way to do that is to share with each other, to help each other, not compete with each other.
Amen. Oh boy, again, you echo the things that I've said previously and that we've all said on this show. And Will, you've been an absolute delight. And like I said, there's an absolute reason we're here together today. So thank you so much for being a part of the Ethical Evolution.
I am thrilled. I'm thrilled to meet you. Thank you so much for having me. And thank you so much, because the audience doesn't know what kind of hoops you have to jump through to have me on the show. We're on opposite ends of the world.
Yeah.
And for you to do this, you were so amazingly flexible and wonderful in getting me on. So thank you so much for having me. It's been so much fun. I could talk to you for days and not beat an eye. So thank you for having me, for sure.
Thanks for listening to the Ethical Evolution podcast. If you're an ethical business owner, change maker, or holistic healer who's determined to make a change in the world and you need support to spread your message, visit ethicalchangeagency.com to collaborate.
Step inside the marketing mirror to uncover marketing secrets, discover gems, tactics, lessons, and campaigns you can use, next gen or fundamentals. Grab the marketing magic to improve your marketing and win more business.
Electricast.
Welcome to Ringside with Ray and Prince. My name is Ray Leonard Jr.
Oh, is that the set? No, that's just my dad.
My name is Prince Daniels Jr.
Daniels again with a big home touchdown.
On this show, we come to humanize
Athletes, entertainers, business executives. We're going to see what makes them tick.
Tuesdays, 10 a.m. Pacific time on Spotify, Apple, Amazon, and wherever you get your podcasts.
We'll see you there. Peace and power.
Electricast. Electricast.